fabulous, produced in the Philippines. That makes me think of our beloved Neill from Journey. Nice reference.
Do you see the line in the middle of the bookcase?
Can't see the line.
Can't see the line, Russ?
Thank you, Russ.
I can't believe the hot cross bun loaf has only been in my life since Easter this year.
It's not a low-fat recipe, this one, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, just check one thing. Yeah, that's fine. It's just because I didn't see, because I wasn't looking when I did the class. I did 2 class, didn't I?
I did.
1, 2.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. I've covered my cherry with custard.
But then...
From the tin. Oh, it smells so nice. Makes me kind of want a pina colada, even though I don't like them. So it gives that really... That sounded weird. I could eat the custard in a jug, just with a spoon. Oh, it reminds me of a game. What does this remind me of? I think I could write a dissertation on how good that custard was.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring a brand new episode of Kay's Classic Bakes.
Yes.
And when I say classic, I mean classic.
Really is.
We are talking absolute top drawer sumptuousness with a heavy dash of the retro thrown in for good measure.
Very definitely.
That's exciting, isn't it? Doesn't that sound exciting?
It does sound exciting. I want to eat it.
Sumptuousness with a dash of the retro thrown in for good measure. It sounds like a description of you.
Yes, I'm retro. Does that make me retro? So everybody who grew up in the 80s and 70s, does that make us
Well, it does.
retro? It would be if I had on a rah-rah skirt, a headband and pale pink lipstick and blue eyeshadow. Then I would be there,
You've got the pale pink lipstick.
I haven't.
You did have.
Yes, I do have a pale pink
Oh,
lipstick.
you do? I thought you did. Didn't you have one on the other day?
I did, but I put another one on top of it. You don't need to know about this.
No, they do. Lipstick's fun. We love a good lipstick. Hey, look, what a show we have in store. But before we get cracking on today's show, I just wanted to take a moment to say, in between last show and this show, we seem to have had quite a few messages from people saying that they think A Castle Nation is the best history adventure show that we've ever done. Oh, my goodness.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh.
No, please.
Jinx.
Please.
Thank you all so much.
I mean, it means the absolute world to us whenever we get any feedback like that, because it's a very insular world doing what we do, because we don't see a lot of people.
No.
We're cool with that. We're quite shy people, so...
It's a strange feeling, actually, thinking that, lots of people around the world would know who we were if you bumped into us walking down the street. Yet nobody where we live knows who we are.
Good.
Very few, 1 or 2.
Excellent news.
We have had 1 or 2 people actually saying you're who you are.
Yes. No, it's
so
perfect.
It's a strange feeling.
It couldn't be more perfect for the characters that Kay and I are.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
not that we wouldn't say hello to you if you happen to see us.
No.
Please do.
The point being, we appreciate it so much when you guys do, take the time to send us a message. And my goodness, Castle Nation, it's the most amount of work for a historical documentary that we've ever done. And that's because the amount of reading and the amount of research that goes into each episode is really high.
It's huge. Dan's always reading.
Thankfully, it is a labour of love, if you like. Just like all your shows. Mm-hmm. And so, again, it's the perfect situation. But point of the conversation, thank you all so much for your messages.
Yes.
It means the absolute world to us. And my goodness, I'll talk a little bit more about what's happening in the next episode later on, because Castle Nation's back and it gets really cool now. But forget all that, because yes, just you wait. Well, you've already sort of in the outtakes got a bit of an idea on what's going on in today's Kay's Classic Bakes. Don't think so. Don't think so. Okay. I mean, the Hercule Poirots out there may have guessed, but I would doubt it very much. So let's keep it a surprise.
Okay.
When it's unveiled in its rah-rah skirted pink lipstick gorgeousness.
Oh, that sounds so cool, doesn't it?
It really does.
The 80s were the best decade in the world.
Yes.
End of.
But yes, when this goes out, finally, I mean, I say this. It's strange me saying this and not feeling like a sinking feeling, and I still do when I say it. But summer has now started.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, yesterday.
I don't know. It's somewhere around the 21st, isn't it?
Yeah. So sort
I always
of
think
yesterday.
the summer solstice is the 21st.
That's the longest day.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's good.
Really, it's still light at 10:30, 10:45 at night. I am so over
It's
that.
insulting.
I'm so over that, really. I just want to go to sleep. I don't want it light.
But yes, summer has begun. And we have a tradition here in the Baker Bear's house. Summer is about movies to an extent.
Yeah, that is true.
Over the years,
movies and stuff.
there has been the summer of Father of the Bride.
Oh, yeah, that was years ago.
Possibly one of my favourite summers
We
ever.
just watched them over and over and over, didn't we?
It was all the fault of our daughter Bryony, who kept saying, because we would just say, what do you want to watch? We were away on holiday somewhere. We'd, go out for the day, come back. What do you want to watch? Father of the Bride. So on it went. So there was definitely the summer of Father of the Bride. There was the summer of Jurassic Park.
Oh, yes, there was.
Oh, yes.
We watched all of those. One of them was rubbish. I forget which one it was.
Yes.
A more recent one.
Yes.
Was
Well, all the
absolutely
recent ones were rubbish.
Yeah, that's true. Was
Funny
the very,
that.
Was the very
Because it's the
recent
same with
one?
the Star Wars films.
Was the last one we saw, was that one rubbish?
Yes.
It was better than the previously rubbish one, though, I think.
Marginally.
Marginally, maybe.
But look, when we say the summer of Jurassic Park, we're talking the original three.
Yes.
But really, the summer of Jurassic Park, I think, was fairly focused on Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But then, perhaps the most ground-shaking of all the summers was the summer of Solo.
Ah.
Yes, it started in spring.
Well, no, it was May. It came out on, was it my birthday, I think, or round about my birthday?
Is that spring?
I suppose it is spring. It's late. It's end of May. It was. Yeah.
I was going to say, if it isn't spring,
that is
what is it
true.
then?
No, it is. You're right. But yeah, we went. Yeah, we
It's
went
a new
to see
season.
it first of all on my birthday, and then we watched it like
7 times.
7 times through that summer. It was ridiculous.
It was
the number
stupendous.
of times that we went to the cinema.
I mean, that was classic. So it was with great excitement because we are in the process of making the most of absolutely every second that we have with our lovely daughter Bryony before she heads off to university. And I don't know how this all came about, but she decided that this summer would be the summer of James Bond.
The summer of James Bond.
So
She's so excited. We've started.
the first question was, there's 24 films, but we don't count the 24th. So there's 23 films.
No,
And-
there must be 25 because there's 24 on the what I bought.
Okay.
And it misses off the most recent one, is what I was told.
It really doesn't matter how many. Look, there are quite a few Bond films.
Yes.
So the question was, how do we buy them?
How do we buy them?
So
How
I
do we
looked.
watch
I looked
them?
on digital. Do you remember in the old days when digital was supposedly cheaper? Well, it was £130. So did a bit of research, got them on disc. How much?
I went into HMV. I went into an actual shop.
Yes, yes.
And I couldn't see it on the shelves, but I just asked a nice lady behind the counter, and she went away and she said, "Yeah, we've got it here on Blu-ray.
Yes, yes. And how much was it?
Box set. It was £65.
Come on. I mean, that is literally half the price.
So £65 for 24 films is, I think that's brilliant.
It's
And,
exceptional.
Blu-ray, and we've got them permanently.
So we started watching.
We did.
Oh, yes. It begins with Dr. No.
Yeah.
And
I quite liked Dr. No because it's set in Jamaica and I loved all those vibes. There was lots of dancing and dodgy music and I really liked it.
I mean, when you're watching the start of James Bond, and we've all got used to James Bond films recently.
The intros were terrible.
I mean, first of all, the intro was a bit crazy to start with, but then it breaks into 3 blind mice.
It was very odd.
And
very
I'm like,
peculiar.
what is going on? It's like, I mean, it literally felt like, I tell you what it felt like. It felt like watching Austin Powers, but for real.
It did, yeah. You can see where Austin Powers got its influence from. It's those early James Bonds, isn't it?
So we watched Dr. No, and, it was surprisingly good.
I liked it.
It really was surprisingly
Sean Connery,
good.
lovely.
Well, you haven't been very complimentary about the hair.
The hair. Oh gosh, yeah. You see a lot of Sean Connery's torso,
And
his legs. Oh, he's very, very hairy. Very hairy man.
Dr. No we watched, and I will say absolutely stunned at how good it was.
It was good. I liked it.
Come on, it wasn't exactly...
It wasn't mind-blowing.
No, but for a film from 1962,
absolutely,
highly entertaining.
Absolutely, very entertaining.
Really sort of cool to see where it all started. Then watch From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of scenes of trains moving.
Yeah, I wasn't
maps.
keen on this one. I wasn't keen on this one at all.
Bit weird. And
I didn't really
bit hard
understand.
to follow.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what was going on.
But again, you know...
Robert Shaw's in it, though.
Oh, exceptional.
A blonde, young Robert Shaw, looking very buff.
Looking very much like Erwin Rommel from...
Oh, yeah, he does
where he plays Rommel in the film. I can't remember the name of the film now.
Yeah.
Tobruk, I think it is called.
Yeah.
Can't remember. So, yes, we've watched 2.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting.
It has been interesting.
I've enjoyed it.
And I think it's going to be a really... I'm looking forward to getting to Roger Moore.
Yeah.
That's, I'm right in my zone of James Bond.
Best Bond opening of any film, and I can't remember which film it is, but it's the one where, as ever, he's in a clinch with a young lady.
Yeah.
They then get attacked, so out he comes, skis down a mountain, and then nobody does it better, is what happens. Skis down a mountain, big sort of chase, skis off the edge, pops his chute, Union
Jack parachute.
and Carly Simon starts singing Nobody Does It Better.
So which film is it then?
I just said I can't remember.
I can't remember which film that one is.
Which film is it then?
No, we shouldn't look it up because then it'll be a fantastic surprise when we get to it, won't it?
Yes.
We'll be like, this is it.
I'll be honest, I'm really not looking forward to the Timothy Dalton years. Because they were pretty lame, pretty dreadful.
Yeah.
And what's so cool, I've seen, as ever, when you start doing these things, you start looking into, the sort of history of it a little bit. And before they cast Timothy Dalton, Sam Neill did a screen test, which I found, and it's really good.
I think he'd have been really good.
If you go on YouTube, you can find it.
He was an absolute looker when he was young.
But
still is.
What I didn't know, you might know this, and I'm sure some of you out there probably do know this, but Pierce Brosnan was offered it then.
Was he?
And he tried to do it, but he was making, is it The Scarecrow and Mrs. Simpson or something or other?
Mrs. King, was it?
And he couldn't get out of the contract.
Right.
So he had to, back out.
I liked Pierce Brosnan as
brilliant.
James Bond.
Well, it's brilliant. Yeah, Pierce Brosnan was very much in the sort of Roger Moore
Yes, very upper class gentleman, British.
For me, Pierce Brosnan is your Roger Moore, and Daniel Craig is more of the Sean Connery.
Yes.
More of the sort of serious.
Action man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, honestly, whoever they cast as the new Bond, for me, I think it would be more sensible not to go the Daniel Craig route.
Yeah, they
not
need.
because
I think
I
they
didn't
do.
like Daniel Craig.
I think they need to go back to the tall, very gentlemanly, British,
go
handsome, dashing.
Go
yes.
dashing. Any way you want to go, but dashing. Make it dashing.
Very dashing.
And make it more sort of Roger Moore.
You can't go wrong.
Make it more.
They don't need. James Bond does not need to be big and muscly and Daniel Craig buff, does he?
Yeah, the funny thing is, he's not that big.
He's not that tall.
Yeah, I know.
He
It's
isn't
really
very
funny.
tall,
It's really
Daniel
funny.
Craig,
It's
but
really
he's
funny.
muscly, isn't he? And you wouldn't mess with him.
I love it when you see film stars in real life.
There's quite a lot of male film stars are short because
we're just watching 24.
It's easier to film.
We're just watching 24
when they're
again.
shorter.
And Kiefer Sutherland is not a tall man.
No, but you can't tell on screen.
No, you can't. I remember reading. I was reading about 24, and I remember.
But again, you would not mess with.
I remember reading Freddie Prinze Jr., who is in, I think, the 7th season or the 8th season of 24.
He is, yeah.
And he was extremely. He did not enjoy filming that.
Didn't he?
Because he's quite tall.
Oh.
And Kiefer Sutherland had a real issue with the fact that he was taller than him. Right. So there was lots of boxes going on.
Oh, gosh,
standing on boxes and things to even up heights.
Right.
All fun and games.
It really is, isn't it? It's interesting, I think, the things you don't see.
Yeah.
To give you that illusion in films.
We won't even begin to talk about Tom Cruise.
No. Bless him.
With his heels.
Yeah.
And his running.
And his
motorbikes.
Yeah, you see, you can't tell how tall he is on a motorbike or sat in a plane, can you?
Look, that's enough.
But still,
Summer of
very
James
handsome
Bond
man.
waffle.
Yes.
If you want to join us in our journey through Bond, please do.
Please
We'd love to
do.
know what you think. Do you
We'll be
remember
watching-
Dr. No or From Russia with Love?
What's the next
don't
one?
ask.
Oh, I don't know. That'll be on maybe this weekend. It's a busy weekend this
Yes.
weekend.
Oh,
so
I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Look,
yeah.
less of that,
Anyway.
more of this. Kate Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, I've got a very socky agenda
What
today.
was that programme? Was it Storymakers?
Storymakers with Sock and Socky Sock, was it?
Like the worst.
Storymakers
names.
was a terrible BBC CBeebies programme back in the day. Yeah, and they had Sock and Socky Sock, I think it was.
Too nice. So I'm looking for my projects. I'm looking for projects. There's one here.
Yeah.
And the other one is behind me.
Well done.
That was a very soft cushion.
So yes, I'm very sock heavy this time because I'm just in a sock mood right now. I just want to knit all of the socks. So I just allowed myself to do that and I cast on a bunch of socks. So the first one is in this lovely bag, which I made quite a few years ago now. Oh, do you like this pin badge? Look, it says "Stronger Than You Believe" and it's Wonder Woman. This was a gift from a lovely friend. And this was also a gift. This little house pin badge was also a gift. I got this fabric. I ordered it from, is it Little House in the Big Wool? Is that right? She did some bags in this print. It's a special print. And she made some bags in this print and I did buy one at the time, but it was a heavier weight cotton. But then she sold the print on just like a normal quilting cotton. So I bought some and made this lovely bag and I use it all the time. Perfect sock size for my first sock project. And I'm in a really sort of bright and fun and sort of happy sock mood right now. So two of my socks that I cast on are like brighter than the sun. I'll warn you right now. And I'm just absolutely loving these bright yarns. So the first one that I'm making, I'll pop this on a blocker, it's a scrappy pair. And it's the Fairground socks. It's my pattern Fairground socks. And I'm making it with 3 20-gram mini skeins. And it's a short pair. These are for Bryony. So here's the first one. How fun. How fun is this? So Bryony chose these yarns. It's 3 mini skeins. So I've got this blue for the cuffs, heels and toes. This massively bright neon green. And then this variegated neon. Now, the only one that I know who the dyer is for, I said that totally wrong, but you know what I mean, is this variegated one. And it's from a dyer in this country called Somerset Yarns. The tag is tiny because it's just on a mini, but it's Somerset Yarns. And this particular colourway for the variegated is called 80s Revival. So that's very appropriate, isn't it? We were just talking about retro. So yes, I'm being very retro. And so I'll show you the 3 minis together. Now there might be an element of yarn chicken with this pair of socks because the blue wasn't quite a full 20 grams. I'd used a tiny bit of it in something else. But we will see. I've only got the toe to go now and well, we'll see. But these are the 3 yarns together. I wish I could remember who the dyers were for the blue and the green. I've got a sort of feeling that the green might have been like a coordinating mini with a self-striping set, but I didn't use it. I used a different one. I've got a feeling that this might be a mini from that. But the blue, I haven't any idea where this was from. I just found it in my stash. I wish I could remember. But this variegated, I mean, look how fun are these colours. And I know she does full skeins of this. And I just think a full pair of socks in this would be so fun. So yeah, I've got one finished. So I'm striping the green and the variegated. And I'm doing 2 repeats of the Fairground pattern for each stripe. And that works out perfectly for the length of sock that I need. I must have knit this sock in about 3 days. It was so quick. The Fairground pattern, I often get asked what my favourite design is that that I've ever done, and it's really difficult. It's like saying what your favourite child is, I suppose, which for me wouldn't be difficult because I've only got one child, but you know what I mean. It'd be really difficult, but this pattern, the fairground pattern, every time I knit it, and I've knit it multiple times, it just goes so quick. Even, you know, if you do it in self-striping, which is what I designed it for, or in this case, Scrappy, it just honestly seems to fly, absolutely fly off my needles. So this is just a short pair, as you can see, because Bryony wanted another short pair for summer. But the second sock, I am just about to finish the gusset decreases. So here we are with the second one. And it literally feels like I'd got the cuff done. When I finished that first sock, I got the cuff on the needles, and then I had to set it aside to do some other stuff. But then I picked it back up maybe 2 nights ago, and in no time at all, I'm on the gusset decreases. So just so quick. This variegated colour, I absolutely love how it's knitted up. It's pulled a tiny bit on the gusset, but nothing that's terrible. And on the other one, actually, it didn't pull at all on the gusset. Look, not really. It did really well on the gusset. It changed slightly, but nothing terrible. And it's funny how that's changed colour when I've held it up to the screen, because this green, it's more, in real life, it's more of a sort of minty neon green. I think neons don't really like the camera very much, do they? So yeah, I'm doing these on Magic Loop, 2.5mm, because Bryony just likes a bit more of a stretchy, squishy factor to her socks rather than really tight, sucky in. So I always use 2.5mm, but I get about 8.5 stitches. Do I get about 8.5? Yeah, I get 8 to 8.5 stitches on 2.5mm, and if I use 2.25, I get like 9 stitches to the inch. So there's really not that much difference, but that extra bit of give is really nice. You know, this is how she likes her socks to be. She doesn't like her feet being strangled, so it works perfectly. So yeah, 2.5mm, I'm using Magic Loop, and 64 stitches for Bryony and for me, both 64 stitches. So I want to get these finished before the end of June, which I will, looking at where I am here, because I do want to give them to her before the end of June. There's a reason why I want to give them to her before the end of June. I'm absolutely loving them, so I really would recommend this method. You know, go into your stash, find 3 20-gram minis that you like the look of, and make yourself a pair of shorty socks. It'll definitely be enough. I'll definitely have enough of these two because I've weighed them after the first sock. And in theory, I would always have had enough for cuffs, heels and toes, especially on a shorty sock, because I only do 12 rounds of cuff. And I think I'll be okay. Looking at how much I've got left, I think that'll be enough for a toe. But worst case scenario, it might just have to have the tip of the toe in green if I run out. But that won't be the end of the world, will it? It'll just make them look a bit funky. But fingers crossed anyway. But Somerset yarns I'm really loving right now, and you'll see in the next pair of socks how much I'm loving Somerset yarns at the moment. So Dan Jones, what's on your needles?
It's more of my winter at Pemberley KAL, and I'm learning. I'm learning so much. When I've been doing colour work, not all colour work, challenging bits of colour work, what I've been doing is, the mistake I've been making is my sort of standard knitting gauge has been loosening, and I've only just realised now. I've just got back into this ivy section, and I've been looking forward to getting back to this since I didn't do a very good job on this bit, because I was thinking, you know, when I get back into that, I can try and improve on it. And I've not been thinking, right, what do I need to do to improve? I've just been thinking, right, I need to keep the tension that I've been knitting with the same as I transition from this gorgeous centre section into this ivy section. And that is not what happened here. When I was doing this, I was so completely focused on the floats and on making sure, I mean, it's so crazy. I mean, it has actually got better. It doesn't look as bad as it did. There was much, much more puckering than that. So that's really good. That bodes well for blocking and finished off. But I was allowing my standard knitting gauge, so when I was knitting in this paler colour, I was allowing it to go loose. And I'm not doing here.
Right.
And I'm like, do you ever like knit on a project and you're excited as you knit? Mm-hmm. Do you?
All the time.
Do you? You're like, oh yes, go, go, go.
Well, those socks.
Oh,
my next pair of socks.
Oh, come on.
Basically any socks.
Isn't that the best feeling ever?
A new blanket design. I'm like, want to just knit forever.
Oh, come on. Oh.
All the time I feel like that.
Oh, I feel like...
There'd be no point in doing it if you didn't feel like that.
Oh, there must be people out there, though, who are just, doing it because, I like finishing off the...
Well...
Finished... What are they called? Project knitters. No.
Oh, right. So are you a process knitter or a product knitter?
Because surely it's the process we're talking about.
Well,
we are discussing the process.
Yes, and some people are very, very much process knitters.
Yes.
And they just want to knit because they love to knit.
Yes.
And, they might give away all of their stuff or whatever.
Yes.
And some people are knitting because they want the finished thing.
Yes.
I don't know what I am because sometimes...
I think you can swing both ways sometimes.
So, yes, sometimes I can be knitting something because, for example, if Brian is asked for something specific and it might not be exactly what I want to knit, I will do it anyway because it's been asked of me. But if I've just chosen to knit something, it's because I want to knit it. And yes, I want the finished thing and I'm excited to have the finished thing.
Yes.
But the process of knitting it and seeing it emerge is what...
Yeah, that's when knitting really...
I'm probably both.
Yes, I would say definitely. For me, I think I'm definitely process all the way. And for me, knitting really zings when... ideally, I've not made a mistake and I'm perfecting it, but I do love... Oh, that's not been too good. Right, how can I get it better? And that's why these projects are just so perfect for me. This midsection on this project has been like heaven.
The snowflakes.
I have loved it.
Don't the snowflakes look cool?
I found it quite challenging.
It's so lovely.
But I just loved it. It was so unbelievably fun. And I just think it looks so great.
It does look great.
But the best colourwork section I've ever knitted is definitely this ivy.
Yeah.
Just because even though it's not perfect, it looks wonderful.
It does, especially from a distance.
I love how it's sort of like, winding all. It looks like ivy.
Yeah. And this,
which I know sounds silly.
Yeah, this ivy section was tricky actually to chart out. I did find a few already charted ivy patterns, but they just weren't quite right. So I think in the end, I just sort of looked at a few and then tweaked them and
charted out your own.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Well, it's brilliant. It's brilliant, and I feel like this. Because there's such a big section of knitting at the start of this and a big section of knitting at the end.
I think that's what makes it stand out.
And the colourwork's only in the middle.
Yes.
This didn't take me long to knit before.
No.
This is not going to take me long to finish now, I don't think.
No.
Because I think there's nothing better than when you feel inspired too. You've just been talking about that on those fairground socks.
Yeah.
You're knitting through them fast because you're loving it. And it's the same with me.
You don't notice the time passing when you're enjoying something.
And also you find more time.
You do.
Yeah. In those sort of moments, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just pick that up. You do it every time. You've dropped, look.
No, I haven't dropped them. They've just come off the needle.
It's all too much.
It isn't. Look, they're back on. Stop panicking.
It is the gorgeous Regia Merino yak.
It is.
Works brilliantly for this.
I think, this just demonstrates how good colourwork looks with a bold contrast.
Oh, yeah.
Because quite often you'll see colourwork done and the contrast isn't very contrasty.
Yeah.
And I think really for something like this, you need a bold, solid contrast. Bold.
He's bold.
He's bold, yeah. When Bryony was little, she couldn't say bald, like if a man was bald.
She said bold.
She used to say, he's bold. He's bold, mummy.
So this is a great project, and I'm into this section, and I'm loving it. Now, I'm knitting it in the round on 3.5mm Knit Pro cubics with that's just the cable that came with the set.
It's a fix, darling.
It's a fix.
It's a fix circular.
Sorry. I do apologise.
So it definitely came with it.
Come on, I did pretty good, didn't
Definitely
I?
came with it.
3.5mm cubics.
Yeah, very good.
Got that far in the round, which is correct. I didn't get that wrong, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Now, I've been pondering.
So nice.
I've been pondering lately, and I feel like I need to, because do you recall when I knitted the Solia, which is the one with the sleeves that are too long, but the yarn is perfect.
Yeah.
It's drops.
What drops was it? Charisma? No.
I can't remember, but we will be able to find out because I spoke about it a lot on one of my series. I can't remember if it's Journey to the Centre of the Yoke. I think it probably was. So I will be able to find out what the yarn is quite easily.
I think it's Drops Charisma. I feel like you've knit something else using Drops
Yes,
Charisma.
I did.
Did you?
I used it a little bit.
Right.
For a few projects. But I feel like, I don't know if I'd be able to get an idea. Also it's years ago and my knitting would have changed, but I just feel like I should try knitting maybe a garment again in drops.
Right.
Because that came out great. And it also, the colour work really worked with that yarn.
I think it was what is Drops Charisma? I think it's just 100% wool, isn't it? I think.
Well, we can look at the item, but the problem is, the other thing is, even if I just knitted that last week and you're thinking, all right, I can look at that and find out the gauge, because of all the lace,
yes,
you can't.
No.
So I'd have to do...
It's a funny one, this, Olia, because there's lace and there's colour work.
It's a great design.
It really is.
The problem is I knitted the sleeves too long.
Yeah, the sleeves are probably about 5 inches too long. They're hugely too long.
I just was not experienced enough at the time to know. But also as well, the other thing that we didn't anticipate was the drop.
It really stretched. And
that is the yarn.
Yeah.
The yarn is quite stretchy, but also the lace in the sleeve made it drop.
It was fully lace sleeves, and that, I think, combined with the yarn sort of stretching a bit, just made the sleeves grow enormously. But I think that is a difficult combination, isn't it, lace and colour work, because generally with colour work, people's tension you want to be on the loose side, don't you? But then with lace, you don't want that to transfer. You don't want a loose gauge really with lace.
No.
So it's difficult to get that balance, I think. Yeah.
Anyway, I've digressed. This is a great project. Really enjoying it. And I can't wait to get through this section and then we can compare it and contrast.
Yeah, that'll be fun, won't it?
What else is on your needles?
This pair of socks is a new cast on. So this next pair of socks actually is in one of my many, many Moo and Mouse bags. Lovely Emma at Moo and Mouse. I can't remember when I got this one, Emma. I feel like it was a summer one, but I'm not sure. It's got the cutest fabrics with like little Red Riding Hood. And there's like a cute little deer here, and I love the colours. So yeah, it's in one of my favourite patchwork Moo and Mouse bags. And this pair of socks is another pair of socks using Somerset yarns. And this actually was a bit of an experiment because I'd noticed, I follow her on Instagram, and I'd noticed that she dyes these yarns, and it's called the Princess Collection. So they're all based on Disney princesses, but she uses like her neon dyes to do them. So it's like neon versions of Disney princesses, but she dyes them in a very particular way. And if you go and have a look at her Instagram feed, or you might know already, you might have knitted a skein of this yarn. You might see how she dyes them up. And it really intrigued me. When I first saw it in the skein, I kind of dismissed it because I just thought, I think that might pull. However, I was interested enough that over the course of like a couple of weeks of having pondered whether I was interested enough to try a skein, I was interested enough to try a skein, is the answer. So I actually bought a skein. I thought I'm just going to go for the brightest one that's there because let's just do that. So I went for Belle. Princess Belle. So once again, it's Somerset yarns and it's Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Because what I wanted to do with this yarn, and I have recorded one of them already, is I wanted to do like a off-the-shelf review, which I do quite often with new yarns. But then I wanted to then knit a pair of socks in them and then come back and show how they've knitted up. And when I recorded the off-the-shelf review, you know, I've got it in the skein, I was telling everybody all about it. And then when I untwisted it, I was really surprised on how it was actually dyed, because I expected it to be dyed in a certain way, because you can tell when you unskein it. I'm not going to go into details about it because I think that would be a little bit unfair to give you specific details. But when you know, if you buy one and you unskein it and you sort of lay it out, then you know you can see how it's been dyed. But I was like, gosh, you know, and you can, when our patrons, when you watch it, you'll see my brain going, gosh, how is this going to knit up? How is this going to work? I don't even, because I have seen one of the colourways knit up again on Somerset Yarn's Instagram feed. I think she's knit up, I've seen Moana knit up, which is gorgeous. It's this bright blue with the speckles in it. And I saw how it had knitted up. So I'm like, how on earth is this going to knit up like that? I just couldn't understand it. Anyway, it has knit up like that. And I think it's really clever, the way that this has been dyed. It's been really unexpected, and I think, it like I say, it's really clever. It's not what I thought. So I'll show you the sock in a second, but for the...
Ooh, that's hard to say.
I'll show you the sock in a second.
That sounds like something from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah. Do you know...
You say it as you're skipping down the yellow brick road.
I know. I've got a pair of scrappy socks that I made a few years ago that are Wizard of Oz themed. I don't know if you remember me knitting them. And I was watching Wizard of Oz while I was knitting them. And I wear those socks all the time with my pyjamas at night. And every time I put them on, I think about when I was knitting them and how much fun I was having knitting them, watching The Wizard of Oz. And isn't that a lovely thing, you know? Isn't that the whole point of what we do?
Yeah.
That, you know, you've got all the joy of knitting this thing. And, you know, at the time, like I said, I was really into The Wizard of Oz and I was watching it and just really enjoying that sort of mad fantasy world. And then, but every time I put them on, I think about that feeling and it gives me that feeling again. And I think that's just so lovely.
I used to listen to it. They stopped making shows, but I listened to this podcast it's an audio podcast called Daves of Thunder.
Daves?
Yeah, it's a play on word for days.
Yeah, Days of Thunder.
Yeah, and one of them was a movie industry guy,
right,
and the other one was a sports guy, and they were just best friends, and they used to talk about, you know, sport, or they would talk about movies. And the movies guy told a really interesting story, a really funny story about how during the filming of Wizard of Oz, it's the Munchkins, isn't it?
Yeah.
They like to party.
Oh, really?
They took over a hotel in Los Angeles.
That's brilliant.
Where it was being filmed.
Right.
And to this day, it's sort of famous for the wild and crazy parties they used to have.
I love the thought of that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to these socks. So I had to choose a contrast colour for heels and toes, and I've actually bought a few minis from Somerset Yarns as well over the past couple of months. I've seen them and just bought them for no purpose really. I just like the look of them, but I had a couple that I thought would go really well, and I've gone for the one that's a solid. So this is the colour that I'm using. Oh, look at that colour for the heels and toes, and this one is called Anastasia. That's another princess reference, isn't it?
Yeah, but why in my head am I singing "I Had a Love Set Me Free"?
One day in my life.
That's the other song.
But I also had this one, which again, I think she does full skeins of this one. And I nearly used this one, but decided on the one that was more solid. But this one is called Jellyfish. It's this neon mix of pink and orange, which is just absolutely glorious. But I didn't use this, mainly because I wanted to keep it to knit more scrappy socks like I'm making, I've just showed you. So I went with Anastasia for the heels and toes. So this is the yarn, how it's knitting up. It's so incredibly bright. But can you see how it's knitting up with these? It's doing a spiral, tiny thin stripe in the speckles all the way down. And because this was knitting up like this, I didn't want to disrupt this. So I popped in one of my butterfly heels. Here you can see. These are for me. Can you believe it? I'm knitting these for me. They're so madly bright, but I love them so much. So these are going to be for me. So these again are a short pair. So I've done 12 rounds for the cuff. It's 64 stitches. I've done 12 rounds for the cuff, and I've done 25 rounds for the leg, which is the length that I like. Either 24 or 25 rounds, depending if I'm putting a pattern in and it needs a pattern repeat number, if you know what I mean. That's a perfect length for a short sock for me. It's about, I think it comes out about, what's that, 3.5 inches, something like that. But yeah, I popped in the heel. This is my butterfly heel, which is a mock short row heel. It doesn't use actual short rows. It just uses standard increases and decreases. And you knit it flat, but you knit it, it's not an afterthought heel or anything like that. I really love it. I really love this heel. It's really quick to do. And what I'm loving of this sock is the simplicity of it. It's all I'm doing is knitting. I popped in the heel and then I'm knitting again. And this heel just fit me well, actually. I've knit socks for me a few times using this heel and it just fit well. And Bryony has got quite a few pairs and again, they fit her no problem. So it is a good one. And I'm really glad to have it in my kind of collection of heels as a good one to use for self-striping, or in this case for a yarn when you don't want to disrupt the flow. This heel is in a couple of my patterns. I initially put it in the lattice topped socks pattern, but I also included it in, I believe, the fairground socks. So yeah, but look how it knits up. And this is it in the skein. It's crazy, absolutely crazy bright. And it's the neon yellow that also has a slightly greenish hue to it, which might not be coming across on screen. It looks very yellow to me looking at this on the screen, because it just does not transfer. But what you get is these little, spiral stripes or these speckles, and the colours that she's used in the speckles are just lovely. You get this sort of bright magenta-y pink, but then there's also a sort of deeper purple and there's slightly orangey neon, which is why I thought this might go, and I think it would have, but I think the pink is better. So I'm just happily knitting down the foot now, and again I cast these on, let me check in my little book, 3 days ago I think, and yeah, I had to put them down. I just cast them on to see, I was just like, I've got to see how these are going to knit up. So I cast them on and I just knit a little bit like this. And when I realised it was going to knit like this, I was like, well, that's just amazing. And then again, I had to put them down to do other things. It's just so fun. I just love how this is knitting up. And it's so clever. When I've seen a lot of yarns and I've unskeined a lot of yarns thinking I'm going to know what it's going to look like when I unskein it. And probably in a good portion of, a good percentage of those, I do know what it's going to look like when I unskein it. But this one really surprised me. And yeah, I just love how it's knitting up. So I think it's really cleverly dyed. I think the colours are incredibly fun. She does the whole range of princesses. I've actually ordered another skein of this with a different princess theme that I purchased as a gift for someone. There was Aurora, Merida, Moana, Belle, and I feel like there might have been another, but I can't remember. Anyway, go and have a look if you want to, obviously. But yeah, absolutely loving the bright, ridiculously bright, fun socks. And just the simplicity that's brilliant for summer, this type of a sock, just plain, vanilla, with the butterfly heel, simple as anything, but just a joy really, because what I'm enjoying is just seeing the yarn just knit up in that fun way.
Lovely.
Very lovely.
I'm knitting the Nutkin socks.
So you are, and what is this?
A squirrel.
No.
Oh, sorry.
What is this item?
A sock. A sock. A sock.
Was it existing on your needles last time?
It's new. It's a new cast on.
It's a new cast on for Dan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, it's the Nutkin socks. Look, there's Squirrel Nutkin.
Oh, I painted that.
Oh, it's Squirrel Nutkin.
I painted that little squirrel.
This is the Nutkin socks by Kay Jones. And
Thank you for saying
I'm
my name
using
in such a weird way.
the yarn
Oh.
that was also dyed by Kay. Look at this yarn.
So,
It's wonderful.
so this yarn, right, I actually... Can you see the speckles in it? So this yarn I dyed up actually sometime last year. It's a Halloween themed yarn. So what I wanted at the time was a purple with specks of orange, yellow and black, orange, green and black. And I intended to use this for something specifically Halloween, but I never did.
So I have finished something actually. I'll be showing the Sherwood socks later, and so I really wanted to get cast on a new pair of socks. The first thing I needed to deal with was my cast on. We spoke about this a little bit, I think it was last time, and I did. And it definitely is looser, so it'll be interesting to see how it feels once the sock's finished. Certainly feeling good at the moment. What the thing is that I really like about this sock is the rib, because I find ribs a bit tedious and a bit boring, and the rib on this sock is just marvellous. It's like just stupendous. I mean, you know, to not have to do standard knits and pearls is just a complete joy when I'm doing the rib on a sock. And I think it's because, I don't know, it's a mixture of boredom and it's a mixture of, I don't know if it's because it's like standard, I don't know, there's just something about it which never engages me at all. This is totally engaging because it's like twisted stitches, and then there's not a clear like knit to purl to knit
No.
one purl one, knit one purl three, you know, purl one knit three. It's not like that at all. It's all over the place, and I love it. Reminds me, actually, I think, is it the Declan's hat which has a weird... There's a hat that I've knitted. Can't remember which one it is.
It might be Declan's, yeah.
There's a hat that I've knitted where the rib is different. And I remember doing that the very first time and being like, this is the business. So knitted through the rib and everything's worked great, which is marvellous. And now into the pattern. And I love the pattern because the pattern is different on the first stitch to the back stitch.
So this is a picture from the pattern. The Nutkin socks were a Beatrix Potter themed pair of socks.
Which is a pattern available to purchase.
Yes.
And my goodness.
The reason the rib is like this is because there's one little stitch pattern that runs up the back, the centre of the back, and then the front has this lace pattern. And I wanted the rib to flow into it. And that was quite difficult to achieve. So I designed a very specific rib which would then flow into each of the two patterns that are on the sock. And that's why Dan really likes it, I think, that it's not that repetitive knit to purl to, knit to purl to. It's got a repetition around the sock, but it's not something that your brain would know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it comes down to, again, what type of knitter are you? We were talking before, weren't we, about process and project-driven knitters. Is that the right terminology?
Yes.
And then there's also, you're either someone who likes repetitive, you know, you call it soothing, relaxing, I call it boring knitting.
Each to their own.
You might be someone who prefers your knitting to be a little bit more engaging. And this definitely fits the engagement. Now, I think that it is still a repeat, though. That still over the course of you knitting it, you're going to get it into your brain. So it's not that it's like a complete craziness.
No. And to be honest, once you've done a couple of rounds of the rib, all you're doing is you're following your stitches. You're just looking at your knitting and knitting the knits and purling the pearls. So
shall I tell you what I don't like?
It's not difficult. And it's a twisted knit as well.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Because we're honest here, aren't we?
We are honest.
I don't like socks where there's a pattern on the front and nothing on the back.
No, I'm not keen.
I have a serious issue with those because, first of all, it would be a bit like going to get a Big Mac and them leaving out one of the burgers.
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
I have done a couple. Well, have I done any patterns like that? I might have done the odd one like that, but I've never done a pair where it's, for example, a textured pattern and you just do it on the front, you know, or it's a lace pattern and you just do it on the front. Usually when I've done it, there's a panel running down the front, which is a different thing.
Yeah, I think what I'm talking about is
when
where
it's just an all-over stitch pattern, but you only do it on the front.
Yes, to me,
Yeah, I'm not
it
keen on
looks
that
like
either.
it's half done. It's half finished.
Yeah, it's everybody's different, and each absolutely
it's just
each
me
to their
personally.
own. No,
I
it's
don't like.
No, I'm
that.
not keen on it either. And
What I love about these socks is you've got something going on over the top, and then you've got something different going
on the back.
around the back.
And
to me, that's like going to get a Big Mac and then putting something else delicious in there with the Big Mac.
extra pickles or
Yes.
something. But I design. I've got 2 or 3 pairs of socks, I think, that I designed that are kind of like this, where you've got something on the front and something different going
Sherwood
on the
socks.
back, because I know Dan likes it.
So
No,
Sherwood
so
Socks is one. And what's the
Sherwood
other?
Socks.
There's another
There's
one.
Whispers in the Walls.
Oh, Whispers in the Walls. Go to the foot of our stairs.
And then there's this one. And
Yes.
I designed them this way. When I have designed them this way, I've designed them this way because I know Dan likes it. So it's like a personal thing for me because I'm designing a pair of socks that I know he will enjoy knitting.
Although,
So-
when you designed these, that wasn't in your head. Whereas the Whispers in the Walls and the Sherwood Socks, it was in your
Well,
head.
Whispers in the Walls came before this one.
Did it?
Yeah, this was 2019.
Wow.
I'm sure I did. I'm sure my... Oh, I don't know now I say that. I don't think I am. Oh, I don't know.
Look, anyway.
I have no clue
Let's
what
not
year
let's not get
I've done
caught in the
anything.
weeds. Look, it is
Whatever.
the Nutkin socks. I'm using Chow Goo needles,
Yes, yes.
2.5 mil.
Yes.
Really lovely, great yarn, clicker, book, bag,
Oh, guess what?
and pattern.
Guess what? That's just reminded me seeing Dan's lecture notebook. But the new planners for next year are available on that site. Oh gosh, I wish it was a word I could say, but I can't. There you go. Look, this. I use a weekly planner from these lovely people, and the new ones for next year are available. And I ordered one because it's the colours. I wasn't happy with the colour for this year, sorry. I was hoping there'd be better colours. And I've ordered a colour that's kind of like this blue. Oh my gosh, I didn't realise that. It's sort of like Lion's Blue. That's so cool. That's the first connection I made to that.
Very cool.
And then Bryony wanted one as well for university. So she wanted one, it's a sage green. So there's some really nice colours this time. So it's very exciting. So the last thing on my needles
Yes.
is another pair of socks.
Yes.
I don't know that. Have I ever had a
Is-
show where I've got 3 pairs of socks?
Yes.
Who cares? I want to knit
correct.
all the socks.
Is this a Newcastle?
It's a new cast on.
Okay.
And it's in one of my Austin bags that I've made that we are currently running this sew along, stitch along with Summer of Stitching.
We're running it in 3 distinct segments.
Yes, there's the slow stitching.
so we're
it's all
currently
part
doing-
of the bag though, isn't it?
It is. But as you say in the first part of the bag tutorial, you don't have to turn this into a bag if you don't want
True.
to. You could do anything you want with it.
Yeah.
So we're currently in the slow stitching bit, and then Kay then does segue beautifully into the bag making.
Yes, and then
which
we
you can
make
see.
the bag. And there's loads of people actually doing their slow stitching right now. And one lady actually in our Facebook group posted a picture that I just saw this morning. And she called this particular method raw-edged applique. And I'd never heard that before. It is applique because it's pieces of fabric that we are sewing down, which is applique, isn't it? That's what applique is. Because it's not needle-turned applique, I didn't realise there was a word for it, but she called it raw-edged applique. So maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's a thing. I just did it thinking that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't realise it had a specific name. So that was good to know that it had a specific name. So yeah, that's what this panel is here, and it's on the back as well. And then we're going to make it into a bag. But in this bag, now, I've got a pair of socks that I started for Dan because I have finished his last pair, and I'll show you those later. But I don't know if I'm going to carry on with these. and I'll tell you why. I showed you this yarn on the last show because I just bought it, and I was keen to cast it on to give the yarn a try, more in terms of the base really than the colour, but I'm not keen. I'll tell you why in a second. But it's Opal. It's a new Opal that I just purchased. Like I said, I showed you this last time, so it's from this range, and it's colour 4056, and they're all inspired by paintings, and you can see it's that painting right there. And what I was saying about it last time was I really liked the feel of the base, and I'm knitting with it and I still like the feel of the base. I think it's great. So that is brilliant. You know, I'm thrilled that I'm enjoying this new Opal yarn. I thought that's excellent. I wound it into a cake because I just find them impossible to knit from the ball. I don't pull from the centre. I know a lot of people would just pull their yarn out of a centre when it's like a, you know, that type of a ball like these ones are. I don't do that because I always feel like it's adding an extra twist into the yarn. When you pull from the centre, I feel like because you're pulling from the middle, it's doing that as you're pulling it out, and I don't like to add any extra twist into it really. So yeah, I always cake them up and then I pull from the outside. But this is the yarn in the cake. So I mean, the colours are nice enough, but I'm not mad on how it's knitting up, I'll be honest. I'm not really enjoying it. And I'm all about enjoying my sock knitting at the moment, and there's too many lovely yarns out there that I could use for me to just plough through something I'm not really enjoying. But here's how it's knitting up. Can you spot what I've really got an issue with? Can you see the blobby bits? What's that all about? And it's deliberate because I kind of zoomed in on the ball band and looked, and it has all these blobby bits, which are just random. It looks like somebody's taken some liquid dye and just dropped random bits of dye all over it. I don't understand what the thinking is behind this. You know, it's on both sides. It's just not very attractive, and it's all I can see. And also, this is not one of those opals where you get the lovely Fair Isle effect, you know, where you have those sections which are speckled and you get that lovely Fair Isle, and then you get some stripes, and then you get a bit more, and that's what I really like about Opal. This is not that. It just looks more like a variegated, doesn't it, really? I mean, it's not... It's sort of stripy, I guess. But these blobby bits, I'm afraid, are not my cup of tea at all. And it's such a shame because I am enjoying the yarn. It feels really nice. It does feel really nice. And, you know, I decided to knit these on double points. I thought, yes, I'm going to use my favourite wooden double points, which are the Knit Picks Sunstruck. I love these. So, you know, I was enjoying the sort of process of the knitting, but when I started to see the colours emerge and the colour overall, it's sort of a bit murky. I don't know, is that the right way of describing it? Maybe a bit, even though there's some quite bright colours in there. I don't know, it does look like the painting, to be fair. You know, the colours do look like that painting. And I think if it weren't for these random blobs of craziness, I would probably carry on. But it's just not for me, that. So I think what I'm going to do is start a different pair. Or I might have a little break from Dan's socks for a while. I said to you yesterday, didn't I? I might have a little break from Dan's socks because I've done him quite a few pairs this year. So I might just have a little rest and just decide what I'm going to do next, because I've got tons of yarn that I could use for Dan. I've got loads of moustache yarn, Star Wars yarns that I've bought for Dan over the past year or so that I could use. I've got loads of others. But I wanted to show you because I wanted to just report back about the yarn itself, and I'm really liking it. So it's a shame because I'm just, you know, it is a real shame because when I was knitting the rib, I'm like, gosh, this feels great. You know, this feels lovely. But no, I'm just not liking that dye job. Whoever is in charge of Opal decided to do that.
Cool.
Not for me.
Finished.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a brand new episode of Kay's Classic Bakes.
Oh, yes.
Now, just think of all the wonderful recipes that Kay's already shared in this series. There's the individual lemon meringue pies.
Yeah.
There was the gorgeous Yorkshire curd tart.
Oh, yes.
And who could forget the hot cross bun loaf?
I don't think that's in Kay's Classic Bakes,
Oh,
is
is it not?
Oh, I don't know. I'm lost now.
No, it is.
Is it? No. We've been having fruit loaf for ages.
No, I made it for this, didn't I?
Not a chance. You made it last year.
I did not make it last year.
You made it
I
for
made
this.
it recently. The hot cross bun loaf. I've made it for this.
You about
How could all this be topped? Well, let me tell you, they can be. And let's find out how as we watch a brand new episode of the show.
As I've grown older, I've come to realise I am at heart an old-fashioned girl. Put me in a kitchen baking something wonderful and I am in heaven. There is something very special about baking. It's like chemistry as the ingredients come together to hopefully create something wonderful. This year, I'm going to share with you 6 of my favourite bakes. Along the way, I'm going to add some little twists in my attempt for perfection. Welcome to Kay's Classic Bakes.
So here I am back in the kitchen and ready for another classic bake. Now today's is very exciting and very, very retro. Anybody who grew up in the sort of, well, in my era certainly, so grew up in the 70s and 80s, will remember this, I'm sure, from their childhood. It's one of those recipes, I mean, I would call it a pudding, but you can also eat it just as like not a pudding at kind of any time during the day. But yeah, primarily I know it as a warm pudding, but it's really versatile. It uses all store cupboard ingredients. It's very likely that you might have everything in your store cupboards and fridge, etc. to make this. It's so delicious and so nostalgic and really fun and just brilliant. So I need to tell you, don't I, what we're going to make. I'm really excited. We're going to make a pineapple upside down cake. Yay! This seemed the absolute perfect time to make one. So yeah, we're going to make a pineapple upside down cake, and then also we are going to make fresh homemade custard to go with it. You can just have pouring cream on this when it's a hot pudding, and that's perfectly lovely. But why not go that little step further and make some custard? It's really not difficult. And I'm going to show you the way that I've always made it, and it's, fingers crossed, foolproof, as Delia would say, because I'm certain it's a Delia recipe, the custard. The first thing I need to show you, of course, is all of the ingredients. Okay, so I've got everything laid out here that I'm going to need to make the cake. So first of all, we're going to need pineapples. Yay! Now, traditionally, it's got to be tinned pineapples for me. So I've got a tin of pineapple slices. They should be the rings. And the tin is just over 400 grams. Certainly in this country, this is the size of tin that I've only ever seen this size of a tin for pineapple rings. And there will be too many in here, but you can use the rest, you could just eat them, or you could chop them up on your muesli, or do whatever you want just to use up the rest of them. But it's interesting because this manufacturer that I've got here is Dole, D-O-L-E. I looked up the kind of history of this recipe, and what I found was in the 1920s, this company ran a competition for people to come up with recipes for pineapple rings. And loads and loads of people, a couple of thousand people, sent in various different versions of an upside down cake. So I think that's where it sort of originated. But I just thought that was really interesting because that's the brand of pineapple rings that I've got. So, you know, for over 100 years they've been producing these. So it's about the anniversary, isn't it, of this recipe. That's quite cool. So yeah, pineapple rings. We've then got eggs. We're going to need 3 eggs for the cake. I've got some brown sugar. We don't need very much of this, just a couple of tablespoons. I'm using... This is light, soft brown sugar. I wouldn't use the dark brown sugar. I think you'll get too dark of a colour for the top of your cake if you do that. I always use this light brown sugar and that works perfectly. We've got flour. Now, as always, I'm using spelt flour, which means I will also need baking powder. But if you're using just a straightforward self-raising flour, you don't need the baking powder. What you would do is just replace the flour that I'm going to use with the same amount of self-raising flour, but don't put in the baking powder. Sugar, I've got caster sugar here because I always use caster sugar when I'm baking. Caster sugar is the really fine ground. You know, if you think of normal granulated sugar, it's much finer than that and perfect for baking. And then some butter. I've got my favourite Country Life. It is salted. I much prefer salted butter in baking, but if you want to use unsalted, then of course you can do that. So that's all of our ingredients. The equipment really is nothing fancy. I've got a couple of measuring spoons in here, a tablespoon and a teaspoon. Mixing bowl, I'll tell you about the dish in a second. I've got my electric beaters. It's just a handheld one. Weighing scales, must have weighing scales. And then the dish we're going to cook it in. Now I'm using a square dish. Traditionally, I think it might be a round dish. And it's up to you what you use. I've always used a square dish. I quite like the kind of mathematical puzzle of fitting round pineapple rings into a square dish. I quite like that, but you can use a round dish if you want to. Probably makes more sense to use a round dish. Mine is about 22 centimetres square, so if you use a round dish you want sort of 22 centimetres in diameter. I always use a Pyrex dish as well. You know, Pyrex or ceramic seems to be the best thing for this. It works really well. So that's the dish I'm going to be using. Oh, I've missed one ingredient. Everybody, I've missed a vital ingredient. It was nearly a disaster because I forgot the cherries. You've got to have cherries. You know, this is what makes, I think this is what gives it that ultimate retro look. You've got to have some cherries. So I always use the natural cherries. They look sort of slightly darker. I don't even know if, I don't often see the ones that are that kind of lurid red anymore. So glacé cherries, essential, gonna need those. So we have got all of our ingredients now. So it's time, like I say, to produce, to sort of arrange that bottom layer with the pineapples in the dish. So yeah, I'm gonna clear the decks here a little bit and then we'll get on and do that. Right, so the first thing we've got to do is just prepare our pineapple base. So I've got my dish here. So first thing I'm going to do is open my pineapples. Luckily these have got one of these pull-up tabs, so we don't have to mess around with a tin opener. So what I'm going to do, actually, I've got some kitchen towel here, a couple of layers of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to let them sit on the kitchen towel for just a minute or two, because they are completely soaked through with the juice, the pineapple juice from the tin. Oh, it smells so nice. Makes me kind of want a pina colada, even though I don't like them. Yeah, they're soaked through with the juice. Now, I don't mind some juice in the pineapple rings because what happens is it sort of soaks into the sponge around it and just makes it really lovely. But I just want to get some of the juice out because we don't want them to be absolutely dripping wet. Now, don't throw away the juice in your tin. Put that to one side because we're going to use a little bit of that. And then as soon as they've kind of, you know, you put them all down, I just flip them over, just to get rid, you can see how much juice there is in those rings. By the time we've done this, that'll be ready. So I'm going to take some butter And what we're going to do is just dot little bits of butter all over the bottom of our dish. So just take, you know, little tiny bits like that and just dot it all over, because what we're going to create on the bottom here is sort of like a caramel, if you like, and that's what's going to make the what will become the top of our cake. That's what's going to give it a nice colour. So just little bits all over like this. I never measure how much I'm using, I just literally sort of dot it around. So that's probably enough. I've just got that dotted all over. And now we're going to take our brown sugar, and we want about 2 tablespoons. So all I do is I get a tablespoon and I just go around like this. And another one. And this, you know, these two things together, the butter and the sugar, is what's going to give us that lovely colour on the bottom. And also taste delicious, obviously. Butter and sugar, what's not to like? It's not a low-fat recipe, this one, in case you're wondering. But you know, we all deserve a treat now and again, don't we? There we go. I'm just moving that around so that you can see it's all nicely spread around the edges. There we go, perfect. And now we can put in our pineapple rings. Now how you want to arrange these is up to you really, but I think what I'm going to do is start with one in the middle. It does become a bit of a jigsaw. These are still nice and juicy, but you know, we've taken out a lot of that juice. I'm going to go with this approach, I think. This works quite well, and then we're going to fill in the gaps. See, I've got 4 gaps here, so what I'm going to do is just tear and just fill in the gaps in whatever way you want to, really. That looks nice, doesn't it? I'm not actually going to have too much left, which is good. That's it, isn't it? Move that one up a little bit. There we go. Perfect, that looks pretty. So I just put half a cherry in each little hole. So you want it rounded side down, flat side facing you. So this is what's going to give us that classic look. And it's really colourful and fun, isn't it? It's nice for summer. And children would love doing this, wouldn't they? And then I'm also going to put just a little bit in each of the halves too, because you can't miss them out, can you? So just like a quarter, I suppose it is. There we go, last one, squeeze that in. Ooh, doesn't that look fun already? So now we can just set that aside while we make the sponge topping. Right, so now we need to make the sponge that goes on the top. So this is just a kind of basic all-in-one sponge. This is a great recipe, I think, for last minute puddings as well. If you suddenly find that someone's coming round and you want to impress them, you're like, yes, I've got some pineapple rings in the cupboard, I can make a cake. So I've got my bowl ready here and all the ingredients. So I'm literally just going to weigh them out, put them in. And the first thing I've got here is the butter. So I've got 175 grams of butter. I am using real butter for this sponge, and historically you will have seen me make sponges using stork, which is effectively a margarine. You know, I grew up with cakes made from stork. I think all of us did, maybe in the UK if you're around about my age. But this one I think really benefits from real butter. So butter going in. And I've just softened this just very slightly in the microwave. If you're going to do that, you know, it's a dangerous game softening butter in the microwave. I literally just put it in for a few seconds, check it, another few seconds, check it. You just want it to be really nice and soft so that it's easily beatable into your sponge. I'm then going to follow it with the sugar, same amount of the sugar, so 175 grams. And then flour, so for me, that's 175 grams again. of my spelt flour, which is a plain flour, so I'm going to add some raising agent as well. So if you are using self-raising flour, you just want to put the flour in now. So again, 175 grams, and I don't sieve it. You will have noticed that whenever I make cakes, I'd always think life's too short to sieve flour, and I never really noticed that much difference, but it's up to you if you want to sieve it. And then I need some raising agent, so baking powder, and for that amount of spelt flour I want just over a teaspoon of baking powder, so that's 1, and then I just put in like a little bit more. Don't overdo raising agent. If you put too much raising agent into a cake, it kind of balloons up really quickly, but then you might find it drops down a little bit. So what else do we need? We need our eggs. So I'm going to put 3 eggs in for this amount of sponge mixture. Straight in, 3 eggs straight in. There we go. And then the last thing I'm going to put in is a couple of tablespoons of our reserved juice. So that'll just give a little bit of an extra pineapple-y kick. So we now just need to whiz all that together. So I'm going to take my mixer and whiz away. Only take a few minutes. Now halfway through, what I do is just get a spatula and just run it around the edges. So just gather all those bits from the edge like that, just to make sure that everything is amalgamated in. And then just go for a few more minutes. So there we go, that's our sponge mixture all mixed up. So I'm going to bring back my dish. I'm going to grab a spatula, just sort of run it around the edges. You should get, again, what Delia always used to call a soft dropping consistency. So if you turn it over and give it a tap, it drops off nicely. That's what you want. So I'm now just going to drop lumps over, because we don't want to disturb the cherries, do we? We want those to remain in situ. So I just sort of drop lumps around, and then we can just have a little bit of a evening off afterwards. And there's a very pineapple-y smell coming up, which is lovely. This does make a big cake. You know, it would feed quite a number of people. And we've just kept this in a sealed cake tin for 2 or 3 days, and it's been absolutely fine. But if you do have a family gathering, it will definitely feed a good number of people. And I do like a spatula for getting everything out of the bowl. So now we can just gently spread it. Now I've been preheating my oven whilst I've been doing this to 180 degrees C, sort of like a medium oven, because this does take a little bit of time to bake. It's around about somewhere between 40-45 minutes, you know, depending on your own oven. It's quite a slow bake because it, you know, first of all it is quite a big cake, but also that slow bake is giving the sugar and the butter that's on the bottom time to really sort of bubble and give a nice colour, nice slightly caramelised colour. So then I just smooth it all off, make sure it's sort of as even as you can get it, and then I always just scrape off that last bit too. I don't like to waste anything. Time to pop it in the oven. So I'm going to get this in the oven, like I said, 40-45 minutes. Keep an eye on it though, check it from about 30 minutes and it'll be quite a nice golden colour. It's not a light golden, it's a definite golden colour because you are giving it that good amount of cooking time, and it'll sort of rise up like any sponge will. And to test that it's done, just get a skewer or a cocktail stick if you've not got that, straight through the middle, and if it comes out clean, your sponge is done. And also if you just sort of press the top, it'll bounce back. But definitely give it, oh, that's my oven, to temperature. Definitely give it a good 30 minutes before thinking about opening the oven. So there we go, our lovely cake is in the oven. So come back in part 2 when we are going to make that custard while it's cooking away in the oven. There's plenty of time to make the custard, so it's all ready. And then we're going to get it out of the oven. We're going to do the trickiest bit, which is turning it out onto a plate. And I've got the challenge of a square dish going onto a round plate. So that's going to be fun. So I will see you back soon.
Oh my goodness, who needs a DeLorean and a mad scientist when you've got K's pineapple upside down cake to take a trip back in time?
Absolutely.
That is like going back in time eating that.
Oh, it's so delicious.
We've not even tried it yet. Oh my goodness.
It's so delicious.
I'm getting too excited.
Can't even begin to tell you how delicious it is.
It's like the most just
and it's,
sumptuous,
I think it's
gorgeous.
so delicious as well because you get all of that nostalgia at the same time, don't you?
Yeah.
It's so yummy. Even if you don't like pineapple, I would say you will like this.
Yeah, it is. It's just simply gorgeous. Now, the thing that lifts the cake, because I can cut a slice of this cake as it currently stands with nothing else on it and just go for it because it's just gorgeous because there's a sort of moistness to it because of the pineapple.
It's very moist, yeah.
And also because of the juice that's in the cake. But if you add custard, and that's what you're going to do in part 2, oh yes, it then just goes up to a whole other level.
I tell you what, that custard should be illegal. It's so good.
We're going to find out all about this custard when Kay comes back with the second part of Kay's Classic Bakes. And if you enjoyed that, I have a feeling that you might enjoy our Summer of Stitching.
Oh, yes.
I know we've already spoken a tiny bit about it, but we've had a lot of messages from people saying, what exactly goes on? Now, we did show a trailer, but Kay suggested that we put together a little 3-minute sort of promo of what's coming up next month. Because this month, it was all about the slow stitching.
Yeah.
And next month, it's all about this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Summer of Stitching. So in our previous episodes, if you like, we did our slow stitching pieces. So you will have those all finished now. So this is one of them. The other one I've already cut out to size, but this is the one that I haven't. So this is how it looks, kind of fresh off the needle, if you like. So I'm going to pop it down here on my cutting mat. And I've got, you can see I've got the other piece here, which I have cut down to size. Okay, so I have now cut out that second piece. So what we've got now is we've got our 2 slow stitched pieces. We've got our 2 bottom panels, and then we've also got our 2 drawstring channels. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of our Austin bag series. So we finished the last episode where we had got our front panel all completed with top stitch down here beautifully. You can see I've got my fleece here and I've got my piece that's going to be attached. So this is fusible, which means that you iron it and it's got glue and then it sticks. Right, so we've got our piece all nice and attached, or both of our pieces I should say, all attached to the fleece. So we're ready now to add in our drawstring casings. everybody, we have finished our Austin bag, and isn't it beautiful? I'm absolutely thrilled. I really, really hope lots of you out there make these bags. It would be so lovely to think that there was lots of beautiful Austin bags all around the world.
What do you think of that? Now, obviously, that is an extremely shortened
Yes.
version of what's going to happen, because these tutorials, they are between sort of 12 and 20 minutes long each one, and the bag making series is 4 parts. So that was 4 parts squashed into 3 minutes. But you got a little taste
A little taster.
of how it works.
Yeah.
That course, as it just said there a moment ago, starts at the beginning of July and it
Yeah.
runs through to the end of July. And then at the end of July, we then move into August, and there's something completely new then.
There is.
And what we'll do is we'll run a little promo of that as well, so you can get a little taster
I'll be
of what's coming.
I'll be showing you that next time.
Yes.
Because it'll be finished.
Wonderful.
And I can show and talk about that next time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And the Summer of Stitching, now the remaining courses, the slow stitching, was available to all patrons as a special treat. Now, just like all our tutorials and reviews, that are available to silver, gold and platinum patrons.
Yes.
So come and join us for the rest of the Summer of Stitching. It's going to be
exciting.
epicness.
Yes.
But now it's time for Kay to ask.
Dan Jones.
Yes.
That took a second. What's off your needles?
How exciting.
I
That
slide them over to Dan.
is a testament to how rarely this happens. The fact
Yes.
that Kay had no idea
What he was talking about.
what I was talking about and what she was supposed to do. I finished the Sherwood socks.
Yay!
Woohoo.
We need like balloons and
Yes. And these
tape.
are for Bryony.
They are.
So that's very exciting.
That's very
so she's got some
exciting.
lovely green socks
She
to
loves
wear.
green.
Kay designed,
I'll take one off and show you the pattern actually.
Kay designed these socks specifically for me, which was really
I
lovely.
did.
Because we love Robin Hood,
We do.
Prince of Thieves, and that's what these socks are inspired by. That's why they're called the Sherwood socks.
Yeah.
And I've just loved hand-dyed yarn
So pretty.
by Kay, which was great. And then also I used the Chow Goose, exactly the same as what I'm knitting the Nutkin socks on
Yeah.
now. And it was great. The whole project was really lovely. I love this sock pattern very much. So, yeah, I mean, wonderful stuff.
So yeah, from memory, I think what my inspiration was the scene where Robin has Marion at the top of a tree looking at all the treasure and everything that they've stolen, is that right?
Yeah.
And then he gets hold of a rope and they twirl down to the bottom and her skirts all twirl out like this and it's the trees. So that's the front bit. This is her skirts twirling is the lace and then the cable is the trees. And then on the back we've got the arrowheads. So yeah, very Robin Hoodie. And I
Yes.
dyed that yarn as well, so
Yes.
lovely.
Yes, perfect. So,
So we can
Sherwood socks,
give those to Bryony
all
now.
finished. And yeah, I'm looking forward to giving those to Bryony.
Yes, well
Now,
done.
It's
How beautiful.
time for me to say, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I also have a pair of socks. It's all socks this time. And yes, I've finished these blooming things. Oh, look. We can see how not lion's blue it is. But, you know, it's sort of got a vibe, hasn't it?
Of course it does.
Of the lions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've finished these socks for Dan. Now, these socks used, or I should say I knitted these socks using the John Arbon Exmoor sock 4-ply. And the blue colour is Plashers and the grey is Mizzle. And I used they come in 50 gram skeins, this yarn. I used about 25 grams of the grey and I think about 65 grams of the blue. So I definitely needed 2 skeins of the blue, but I do have quite a lot left over. And I used round about half a skein of the grey. So the pattern that I used for these was another of my Beatrix Potter patterns. It's called Jemima. and it's a kind of like an interrupted rib, variation on an interrupted rib, and it's really lovely, very pleasant to knit. It's that classic sort of 4-round repeat. You know, just I loved knitting the pattern again. I'm just not mad on this yarn. I didn't really, in all honesty, would I use this yarn again? No, unless it turns out to be like iron, which I don't think it's going to be. The only reason I'm saying that is, although the content of the yarn is really, you would think it's going to be really hard wearing. It's Exmoor Blueface, Corriedale, Zwarballs and a bit of nylon. I found that it was very thick and thin, and when it went thin it was like lace weight thin, so that just worries me a little bit, but we shall see. So Dan's going to put these on his feet, he's going to wear them, and then we will report back after maybe 6 months or something, 3 months, 6 months, and just see how they're going. I just gave these a soak by hand this time, and some of the blue dye did come out. The water was a bit blue, and I used almost cold water as well. So hopefully they won't bleed in the wash. They are superwash because it says on it somewhere. Anyway, yeah, machine washable. It says on it machine washable. So we shall see. But they're all done for Dan. His lion's socks. There you go.
Well,
they're yours.
Thank you so much for these. I mean, they look great. They feel like they could be hard wearing.
They do feel like they
but the proof
is in the eating.
The proof will be in the pudding. Yes. And speaking of pudding, it's time for us to return for the second part of Kay's Classic Bakes.
To Kay's Classic Bakes, where we are making the delicious pineapple upside down cake. So it's cooking away in the oven, and whilst it's finishing off cooking, we're going to make the custard. Now it's a really straightforward custard. There's no need to worry about anything splitting and all of that business, because we're going to make it in a way that Delia always says is foolproof. So fingers crossed it will work this time. It has every other time I've made it, so let's hope. Okay, so it's time now to make the custard. So let's first have a look and see what we're going to need. So what I've got here is single cream. You can use double cream as well, but I think traditionally when I've done it before I've used single cream, but if you've got double cream, that's fine. And I've got, this is 300 mils, and I'll be using almost all of that. I've got 3 eggs, but I'm just going to be using the yolks. So separate them off. You know, you could use the whites to make a meringue if you wanted to, or you can actually freeze egg whites as well. I've got some caster sugar again. We're going to be using a little bit of sugar and some vanilla. Now the vanilla, I am really particular about vanilla. I would never use the essence. You know, you can get those little bottles in the supermarket, you certainly can here, and they are called vanilla essence. I wouldn't ever recommend that you use those because they're just fairly nasty, I always think. You want proper vanilla extract. I always use the paste. This is vanilla bean paste, and it's Madagascan, I believe. So that's everything we're going to need. So first of all, what I've got to do is get this cream heating up. So I'm going to put 275 mils into a little pan and just start it heating over on the stove. Right, so that's heating up now, just gently. And now I'm going to mix up the sort of rest of the ingredients. So in my little, I've just got a little Pyrex bowl, I'm going to put 25 grams of caster sugar. It's not a lot at all, because this custard, it shouldn't, I always think custard shouldn't be overly sweet. There we go, 25 grams. And then I'm going to, oh, I've forgot an ingredient again. So the essential ingredient that once again I forgot to get out of the cupboard is corn flour. You've got to have corn flour if you don't want your custard to split. Half a spoon of corn flour, there you go. And then a good blob of vanilla. I think the recipe says a few drops, but I like it really vanilla-y. Oh, it smells like heaven. It's funny with vanilla, right? I love vanilla flavoured things, absolutely love them. You know, I love vanilla in cakes and things like that and biscuits, but I can't stand the smell of vanilla in like things like candles because it never really smells like vanilla for me. It smells too sweet. So we've got the dry ingredients there, if you like, and I'm now going to separate off my eggs and drop the yolks into here. Oh, that was a hard shell. That's one. And then we're just going to mix that together with a balloon whisk. And these are nice golden yolked eggs. The more golden egg yolk you've got, the nicer colour you will get for your custard. So just give it a really good mix. Fine. Oh, it's all dotted with vanilla seeds, just gorgeous. So I'm just going to go and check my cream. Okay, so our cream now is nice and hot. I've got steam coming up, but it's certainly not boiling, doesn't want to be boiling. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my cream to my eggy mixture, whisking the whole time and doing it nice and sort of slowly and steadily. Then when all your cream is in, we are going to put the pan back on the heat, and then this is going to go back in the pan. Get it all out. Fantastic colour on this. And now we're going to carry on with our balloon whisk and keep sort of giving it a little, just keep beating it like this until you feel it start to thicken. This won't be like school custard in the 80s where you could cut it in slabs. This will just be a nice, sort of like the consistency of double cream, I would say. You know, it shouldn't be too thick. You just want to heat it up till just below boiling. I don't really let it boil. But what that corn flour does, if you do see that it's starting to split, right, take it off the heat and keep beating and it should come back. But if you do this nice and gently and don't really let it boil, all will be good. So just have a little bit of patience. It might take 5 minutes or so, but it'll suddenly start to feel like it's a bit thicker. So here we are. I hope you can see that this is thicker now. Can you see it's leaving like a little bit of a trail? And it's got a bit of a wobble. That's perfect. Our custard is ready. So now you can just pop a lid on this because our sponge is almost ready. So just pop a lid on it, keep it warm, and then once the cake comes out of the oven, we'll be ready to plate up. So there we go, we've got our cake, we've got our custard. There's only one thing left to do, isn't there? We need to give it a try.
Well, look at this. Oh my goodness, it is absolutely like going back in time.
Does it look delicious?
This is like, for me, it's twofold because it was a staple at school.
I don't remember ever having it at school.
Absolute staple.
I must have, I think.
It was absolutely the bright red cherries at school.
Yeah. I've covered my cherry with custard.
But then I remember vividly, it was a regular with my mum, and the reason why I remember it so much for being a regular is, you know, she would sort out the pineapple and then there'd be the tin left over with the juice, and it would be like a competition between my brothers as to who'd be in the best. As to who got given it. You know, it really was motivational though, because it was like, we didn't get fruit juice back then.
No. We're ready to taste though, aren't we?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
I mean, the custard, I've got to say.
Oh. Now,
that is amazing.
Yeah, the custard.
I've got to say. The custard is phenomenal and it's so easy to do. I should make custard more, I don't know why.
Do you know what? That is like something different. It's more like a sauce. It's like accentuating.
It's absolute heaven, I've got to say.
You see, the reason why I said it transforms it is because the wonderful thing about this is, as you saw the last time you made it, my mum, when we would go on picnics, would just cut up slabs and stick it in the picnic. And then me and my brothers would be running around, probably at Fountains Abbey or one of those places. We would never sit down for long, so we'd sit down and have a sandwich, and then she'd give us a slice of this, and it was a 1 pineapple square, and off we'd run. And that's the reason why the other day, when you made this, I'm doing the dishes, and I cut myself, and I'm like eating it as I'm doing it, because it is like everything in one brick. But then you add custard to it.
It's fantastic. I just got a cherry. Delicious. My favourite bit is the bit of sponge that's under the pineapple ring, because it is a bit more squidgy because of the juice that's come out of the pineapple. It's just absolutely delicious.
You could serve this at a dinner party because it puts a smile on people's faces. It's a bit retro.
It's very retro.
And like I say, with that custard, it makes it really sort of glamorous. This is just a winner.
It's just amazing.
And I think half of the battle, when you play into the whole sort of memories thing, you're onto a winner, aren't you? If you're going back to childhood memories, and that's what this is.
We've just got peppermint tea to have with this, because I don't know, a cup of tea seems wrong with it somehow.
The only thing that I'm disappointed about is...
Yeah, you've eaten the whole thing.
I'm just disappointed that I'm 48 years old and I can't come and have another massive slice with a load of custard right now.
I know.
Because I'll regret it.
I could eat the custard in a jug, just with a spoon.
So how delicious was that? Let me tell you. Oh my goodness, it was, oh my goodness, delicious. You've absolutely got to make one. Just so like nostalgic, and the sponge was light and fluffy, and you know, the pineapple's fruitiness and the custard. I think I could write a dissertation on how good that custard was. It was literally that good. So I hope you really enjoyed it. I really hope you're running to your store cupboards now to see if you've got a tin of pineapple rings to make it, because it's so lovely. So thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next time for more Kay's Classic Bakes.
That was spectacular, wasn't it? Oh my goodness, that custard is immense. Kay could write a dissertation on it. Oh yes, it tasted spectacular.
Really, really, really did.
I mean, just go away and do it, because you'll just love it.
You will.
And the cherries, oh.
Oh yeah, you've got to put the cherries in.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to put the cherries in. Yeah. And I think if your family have not had this, or it's something that you might have heard of but you've never tried it, honestly, just go to the shops and get yourself a can of pineapple rings and make one this afternoon and have it after your dinner tonight.
Beautiful.
And your kids or your grandkids or your partners or whatever, they'll go, what is this you've given me?
Amazing.
And can I have another piece?
Can you believe there's only 2 episodes of Kay's Classic Bakes to go?
I know.
It's going to be so exciting, because I know what's coming in the final episode.
Do you?
But we've got another episode to go.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I remembered. Yes.
We've got a whole episode to go before that final episode. So can't wait for that to return. But next time, England, a Castle Nation is back. We begin a spectacular 2-episode arc filled with love and tragedy, and also
like
triumph, and really triumph against all odds. and an unbelievably powerful woman, probably the epitome, the ultimate powerful woman, because it is, of course, the story of Elizabeth I. And that's all to come next time in England, a Castle Nation. Right now, though, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Oh, well, look, the Summer of Stitching has completed its first course.
Yes.
We've already shown you a little bit of a taster of what's to come next, but we just wanted to say it's available to view anytime you like.
Yes.
Because we've had lots of people saying, oh no, can I join late? Yes, you can.
Of course you can.
You could join in 5 years.
Yes.
And
just
all
do
these
it at your own
would
pace.
still be here, ready for you to watch.
Once it's there, it's there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You know, so fear not. If you want to join late, you can absolutely join late.
Yes.
And join for specific sections if you like. Absolutely. You know, if you just want to do the bag making, come and join us for the bag making. So the slow stitching available now. The bag making starts next month. Next Thursday, we publish our 50th ever issue of our magazine Knitability.
We do.
There's a celebratory cake recipe from Kay.
Little recipe from me.
There's epic interviews, including one with Tin Can Knits.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's going to be spectacular. There's patron articles and so much more. There's a real sort of look back at all the issues from me in my article, which is going to be really marvellous, and also a sort of a retrospective on where I was as a knitter 7 years ago and where I am now. So really fun, but amazing articles, great interviews. So yes, don't miss our next wonderful issue, our 50th issue of Knitability. It's going to be spectacular.
Yes. Exciting.
Speaking of spectacular, the Scrappy Quilt Socks KAL.
Ah, yes. So the Scrappy Quilt Socks Knit Along ends on the 19th, which is actually today as we're filming it. When you're watching it, it will have actually ended. Dan's despairing.
Just say it's finished.
Okay, so yes, the Scrappy Quilt Socks Knit Along has come to an end. However, there are prizes, but because today, the day we're filming it, is the last day, I can't draw them now. So what I'm going to do is I will close the thread in a day or two just to allow any sort of last minute entries, and then I'm going to announce the prizes on the next show.
And you showed the prize before, didn't you, there?
Yes, I showed the prizes, but I'll show you them again, obviously, and then I'll tell you who the winners are on the next show.
Amazing.
So thank you to everybody that's taken part in that. It's been super fun. I've seen so many scrappy quilt socks. It's been marvellous.
Yes. So yeah, thank you all so much for taking part. It's always fun, isn't it, doing a lovely KAL?
Really fun, yeah. We don't often do just sort of like a off-the-cuff knit-along, so it's been really fun.
We are, of course, though, running a year-long knit-along.
Yes.
With our Baker Bear patrons.
That's not an off-the-cuff one.
And what's that called?
That's sock stash.
Yes. So you could stash your scrappy quilt socks
you could, and
in
that
your
is-
sock stash. Double dip, baby.
I believe that's what I've done with a pair of mine, because I knit a pair, didn't I, in a solid colour, which I've seen a lot of people doing as well, which has been fun.
Yes.
And they have gone in my sock stash. We'll be doing an update, I think, for sock stash on the next pop show.
Which I'll be talking about in a minute.
Right.
Cool. You had some cross stitch to show.
Oh yes, so you'll know that Bryony, our daughter, has been doing cross stitch lately, and she's almost finished the piece that she's been working on. She's doing a Star Trek themed one. So I'll show you that when it's all finished. When she's actually finished it, she's on the last little character, and when she's finished it, we're going to measure it, and I'm going to order a frame for her for it, because it's a very specific size. I use a framing company that I've used quite a lot in this country, and they're really excellent. So I'm going to order a frame for her, and then we're going to frame it together. So I'll show you that when it's all finished. But in preparation for her finishing it, she went looking for her next design and found this one. And I've got all the supplies for her.
Done things a bit differently this time, haven't you?
Yeah, we've done it a bit differently because the Star Trek one that she did, it was a kit, so it included everything. And the threads weren't very good quality, I'll be honest. I don't think they were DMC. They certainly didn't feel like DMC. So what we did this time is she went looking on Etsy, and she's just found a chart. And we bought the chart, and then I've bought all the supplies. So the one she went for, she wanted to do something X-Files, because we've been watching the X-Files together. I think we're on season 7 now. We're quite a long way through. She's absolutely obsessed by it, completely loves it. thinks it's just the most amazing thing. So she found this one actually on Etsy from a company called Dork Crafts UK. And look what she's going to stitch. How fun is that? So anybody who knows X-Files knows that this is from the poster that's behind Mulder in his office. So this is going to be her next stitch. So I gathered together the supplies. So I've got her Zweigart. She just wanted plain white. I really like Zweigart Ada. It's really good quality. And I get this from Wool Warehouse. So I just got white Ada. It's 14 count. And then again from Wool Warehouse, I bought all the colours as well of DMC. They're really nice. So we're going to kit it all up when she's finished. We'll do it together. We're going to kit it all up for her. And it's all these lovely colours. So that's going to be her next project, which I think will be really nice. She's really excited to start the next one. And in fact, I went looking for a cross-stitch kit actually yesterday for a gift for a friend. And she saw me on this website and she's like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, oh, I'm just having a look. She went, oh, can I have a look? So we ordered a couple of small ones as well as holiday projects. So that's really exciting. So she's still really into it, which is brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, our patron content continues uninterrupted over the next 3 weeks. That includes our next patron exclusive show.
Yeah.
Which is coming on the 30th of June,
30th,
2024,
right
at 2 p.m. British Summer Time. You can, of course, watch the show, our Patreon exclusive show. We do one every month, broadcast it live, but you can watch the recording of the show anytime you like from 3:10 on the 30th of June, British Summer Time. Full details on how to watch the show are in the show notes. But our next video show won't be for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We take 2 weeks off a year, and we always take them off at the 6-month mark. So we're about to sort of get ready for our next 6 months of content. And so we take a week off to collect our thoughts, recharge the batteries, and get ready for a whole load more of excitement and adventures and cooking and stitching and sewing and who knows what else.
Yeah.
So the next video show won't be available until the 12th of July.
Yes.
So while we catch our breath and get ready for a jam-packed 6 months, because my goodness,
absolutely.
Is it jam-packed?
Really, really
because
is,
summer stitching finishes, and then the next platinum pattern launches.
Yes.
In September.
1st of September.
October, Sockaween, baby.
Sockaween.
Very exciting.
Got something really special.
Oh yes.
Planned for Sockaween.
Oh yes. Can't wait.
I've had it on the go for months, but I've not been able to work on it because I've had to do all this other stuff, and I'm like, I want to do the Halloween thing.
November.
Sorry, excited.
November, it's then the run-in to the Baker Bears Advent Calendar.
Yes.
And this year, the Advent Calendar is unlike anything you've ever seen before, anything in your life.
So exciting.
It's beyond exciting. And then we launch into next year, and trust me, things are going to get jiggy with it next year.
They are.
Yes.
That's
because
a song.
A certain set of shackles have been removed. And yes, so more to come on what's happening next year as the year progresses.
Yes.
But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in 3 weeks
everybody.
with more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a shawl you'll want to wear. So sit yourself right down